Are they a club in crisis? This was supposed to be a season of change at Arsenal, but was it an all-too-familiar scene at the Emirates on Friday? A dream debut for Romelu Lukaku at Old Trafford, but is there a minimum number of goals he should score this season? And what did we really learn from the opening weekend? This is the debate.
What would be a better situation is if the window closes before the start of the season, and then people know that they've got their group for the first game. They're available, they're not available. I don't really understand why it goes to the end of August. I know there is talks about changing that for the future, and my opinion would be it should be changed before the first game. You should know who you've got and who you haven't got.
Well, next season, Paul Clement may get his wish. The breaking news in the last few minutes is that the Premier League clubs are to meet in September and discuss a proposal that will see the transfer window shut before the start of the season. They can still sell players, but no Premier League club would be able to buy. Alan Smith, your reaction to the news?
Well, I think they're trying to do the right thing, Jeff. I mean, as Paul Clement said there, it would make managers' lives a lot easier if they knew that that was their group. But, of course, with what they're proposing, European clubs can still come in and bid for their players and can still sign their players. So you've almost got one hand tied behind your back. You can't buy anybody, but you could get one of your top players poached. So the Coutinho situation, for instance, wouldn't go away, would it? But I think you can see what they're trying to do. All managers would want everything settled on day one, before day one. But it's going to be so hard because none of the leagues don't start on the same day, do they? La Liga's starting this coming weekend. So you need to bring all the European leagues together to kick off on the same weekend. That's the only way it would work, so that then you can't sell players either.
It's not the first time I heard that from a manager. Arsene Wenger used to say that. Now, the problem is still the same. As you said, you can't buy, but you can sell. So, for example, for instance, Liverpool now are going to, as we all think, lose Coutinho. And then you find yourself building your team around a player, and then suddenly he can leave you, but you can't buy his replacement. It's kind of, they're trying to do the right thing, I agree with you, but not the right way. And so I don't personally agree with that one. It's all you shut everything. It's not you sell, you can sell your player, but you cannot buy. So it's a bit difficult. I think managers, and I'm not there yet, but they want clarity. You want to have your group at the very beginning. It's always a kind of a difficult one in August because you want to make sure that team is ready, or, for example, for Swansea to go at Southampton. Is Sigurdsson staying? People are talking. Do you have him? He's your go-to guy. You build a team around him. Suddenly he wants to go, Coutinho, and so on, so on.
The only thing is, Thierry, maybe managers, clubs would say, right, well, we can't buy anybody now, so you can't go. Sigurdsson, you can't go now because we can't bring anybody in.
Do you think that would change anything?
It's an argument that the club could use. Yeah. Whether the player and his agent are going to fall for that is another matter.
I'm going to give you the example of Griezmann. It's a tiny bit different because Atletico Madrid find themselves in a situation where they're in a bit of a dilemma.
They can't buy.
Right. And he said, I'm not leaving because that would be bad of me leaving a club like that, knowing that they cannot replace me. That will be a gentleman way of doing that. But you have some players that, if you have Barcelona calling for you and you Coutinho, do you think that, oh, I'm leaving them without a replacement? No, I'm not going. And no, you're still going to want to go.
Maybe it's the first step, and the Premier League are trying to lead by example. Of bringing all the leagues into line so that they all agree that on a date very close to each of their starts to the season, rather than 3 weeks along, but that they will all stop dealing on the transfer market.
You cannot buy and you cannot sell. Make it clear. So there is no argument between the player and he knows he's going to have to stay now. You know, you don't have to argue with him. That's the rule.
But you've got to get the agreement of the European clubs.
Yeah, no, I was just saying in an ideal world. Like that's
the way it's being proposed, it's being talked about in a fashion that the Premier League clubs, it's in isolation. This is not a UEFA mandate. No. It's a gentleman's agreement. So the first question is, does it need changing? Is it broken? Does it do that badly? Because first of all, you could say, you know, as a manager, you like to see what you've got. You've got 3 or 4 games. And actually, what you had pre-season is not quite good enough, and you've got a month to bring players in. Surely that's a benefit.
Well, I don't see a problem with it, in all fairness. I got used to the transfer window being like this. For example, if you take Liverpool, so you don't want to lose Coutinho, but you want Van Dijk.
Yes.
So you know, it's kind of a irony type of thing right there. And you know, is it the right thing? Is it not the right thing? As you said, you think that you have a good team, and after the 3 games in pre-season, you're like, good point. You're like, hey, we might need another player. But what actually also is changing, for example, for the case of Liverpool, is Neymar unlocked something very late, because Coutinho, I'm sure, was like, okay, he's staying at Barcelona. I'm going to stay at Liverpool. I love it here, or whatever. Suddenly, Neymar goes, well, I wouldn't mind, you know, going there. And so now you're like, oh, it's late now. I can't get a replacement. That's why sometimes players, you know, can get unsettled with one thing, and Neymar started that domino effect in a way. But for me, I don't still see a problem. I understand the manager point of view when you want clarity, and this is the team you have, and let's go with it. But why not understanding that there is a change in the season that you need to have?
I think a manager, now, though, is it any worse now than it has been previously for managers? It's no different, is it?
I don't suppose so. It's just reported with more scrutiny, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I do think a manager should probably be able to fathom whether he's got enough players in his squad without having to play a couple of games in the league before he knows that. I just think it would be much tidier if they did cut it off there. I mean, it's going to be difficult to do it, and it's not going to be without its problems, but you can see where all the managers... If you asked 20 Premier League managers, they'd probably all say, yes, I think it's better, that it's disruptive if the transfer window goes on. I'd love to ask all those 20 managers what they think.
For me, nothing has changed. Do you remember when I arrived at Arsenal? Beginning of August.
Right at the death.
Just there and then. So let's say that rule was already there. Maybe I would have been just after. You know,
in fact, there could have been a benefit for you, because you would have had... I mean, not that you did too shabbily in your time at Arsenal, but you'd have had more time to settle in, wouldn't you? Rather than arrive very, very late. So you would have benefited as the player.
Well, I was talking to Arsenal since May.
Yeah, but actually there and train.
No, but
you wanted too much money and he went off.
No, but you know what I mean.
Tells us a story.
What I'm saying is all those clubs benefited at one point of having a late kind of... you know, getting a player to come to your club. But all the managers had an advantage of it. Even Arsene saying, or even other managers, yeah, I would have liked to, but if they can get a player now that they want, they will say yes.
Yeah, listen, I understand the managers. I think we all have sympathy for managers.
I do that. Clarity is key.
You do your work. But I just wonder, the managers go to the Premier League at the start of the season. Has this come from that meeting, and is this an emotive time? This is when managers are really under scrutiny in terms of who they're buying and who they're selling. So is this possibly an upshot of the sort of tension, if you like, that there is in the transfer market? The timing, I'm curious.
Well, managers would argue that it makes their life more difficult, doesn't it? I mean, you're carrying on in the season. You know, I was up at Newcastle Spurs, and Spurs have obviously come in for a little bit of stick for not buying anybody. And for Pochettino, he's getting these questions asked of him every week, and he's got to prepare his team for the opening game of the season. So the fact that the Premier League chairman or whoever get the vote are going to vote for this would suggest that their managers are telling them, this is what's best for our club, this is what's best for our team. So that's what they think, the managers.
Well, the other reasons... do you think the European clubs would necessarily vote to fall in line with the Premier League? Because there'll be a lot of clubs who, or even these clubs in the Premier League as well, in the qualifying rounds of European competition, that could well set their budget and whether or not they're going to be in the competition, so it could affect what they actually do as well. So...
For me, everything has to be clear. It cannot be, obviously, trying to do something the right way, and I'm going to repeat myself, but you have to be clear. It can't be you can sell and you cannot buy and this and that, gentleman agreement, which I understand. Europe is Europe. Not being in England, obviously, people are going to say, why would we not, you know, we will agree to that. Like you said, you know, the German league starts a different way, a different time. The Spanish league starts a different time. I throw another thing to you. Alexis Sanchez with Arsenal. He didn't want to talk about it while he was on international duty. When you speak to the man, sometimes you speak to the man late. Maybe he doesn't want to speak to you. Maybe the agent doesn't want to play the game, doesn't want to meet you. Then when he meets you, you know, when do you do it? When do you sell the player? When do you buy the player? When do you go for a player? I think for me, it's still okay the way it is. But I understand what Paul Clement is saying, what Arsene said back in the days, that he would like, you know, when the league starts, it's over.
It's going to be fascinating if this does go through to see how it plays out next season. They're talking about, aren't they?
Yes.
This time next season.
Yeah.
So if they can't sign anybody beyond that first day of the season, and then what happens? You know, how does it play out? How do clubs react to European clubs wanting their players? You know.
Also, if you're a European club, would it not affect the way you do your business? You say, right, we'll wait and wait. When that window closes, then we'll go in. Now, will that make it easier, more difficult?
Why would they wait? The European teams.
Well, the players.
It might be harder to get the players if they waited.
Yeah,
I think that would be the problem.
For me, if a player wants to leave, I don't see how you can stop him of going. If he wants to, if a guy is unhappy at the club for whatever reason and he thinks he can better his career, I think I'm going to repeat again, Liverpool. Coutinho wants to go to Barcelona. I mean, it's not a secret. Van Dijk wants to go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
So even though, let's say, obviously it wouldn't have happened in the Premier League because he would have had that gentleman agreement, but if a player wants to go and better his career, you're always going to want to go. And at one point, you're not going to keep a player that doesn't want to stay.
There aren't many players that we're talking about here, though, are we? It's Coutinho, Diego Costa, Atletico Madrid, whatever. But the majority of the transfers are between Premier League teams. Well, I mean, the Championship situation comes into it as well.
Wouldn't apply to the Championship. They could still...
Everyone.
Yeah,
okay.
But obviously between the Premier League sides, that would be finished when kick-off comes around. And that's a lot of transfers. So that maybe you're not totally solving the problem, but you're making your manager's life a little bit easier.
At the same time, though, realistically, if you've got a problem, it's a global game, the Premier League.
Yeah.
You need a global solution.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
OK, well, that's all for the future. But coming up next on the debate...
Nothing has changed the last few days, not on the one side, not on the other side. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking about. He's not available for us in a moment, so that's the main issue, if you want.
Now, that's Jurgen Klopp today in Hoffenheim. He would be so much happier if this had gone away. But the proposal we were just talking about changes nothing, does it?
No, it doesn't, because exactly what you said, Coutinho, with what we talked about just before, could still be allowed to go.
And he couldn't replace him. He can't buy anybody.
Yeah, and it's virtually almost the same, in all fairness, because it's late anyway. Who are you going to buy after Coutinho? He might have someone in mind. Obviously, he's not going to discuss it with us, you know, and openly say, does he have a back problem or not? I understand where he's coming from. He has to also focus on the game that he has. But you have to understand, I've been through it, you know. You think you're going to stay at a place forever, and he thought he was going to stay. Neymar left. Suddenly there is you can play at Barcelona. You don't have to compete with Neymar. There is like a position for you there. It's difficult, you know. And again, Liverpool find themselves in a situation where they're doing the same to Southampton. Southampton were trying to build a team around Van Dijk and be the leader, be the captain, be that guy for us. Did they think about unsettling Southampton? And we know they did that way earlier than what they're supposed to do. They apologise and everything, and that happens to you now. It's not an easy one, but you have to accept it.
Alan, where do you stand on when we hear the club have got to be fair to the player? If a club like Barcelona have come in, you've got to let him go.
No, I don't necessarily go along with that. Every player would want on his CV Barcelona or Real Madrid. You were lucky enough to have Barcelona. I turned down Real Madrid. But, listen, a manager has got to do what's best for his football club. He's getting paid by that club, getting paid very well, and he's got to try and keep his best players. You're not trying to act on behalf of that player. I mean, there's been occasions where you've gone, look, stay with us 12 months. I think it happened with Suarez, and then we'll think about selling you next summer. Do a good job for us, and then we'll look at it. But how do you replace Coutinho? a player of that quality.
Thierry said this late as well.
Yeah, this late. So, no, a manager's there to protect the interests of his club, Klopp, for Liverpool.
What's at stake here with Liverpool? If they refuse to sell, what